The House Oversight Committee chamber was thick with restrained tension as Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett approached the podium. A neat stack of blue folders was clutched firmly in her hand, the weight of their contents almost palpable. Across the table sat Congressman Clay Higgins, former law enforcement officer turned outspoken legislator, his posture calm but his eyes alert. Scanning the room, the committee had convened to review allegations of campaign fund misuse. Yet no one could have predicted that the next 45 seconds would reverberate across the Capitol. Crockett, a former defense attorney renowned for her meticulous, evidence-driven style, adjusted her glasses and opened the top folder with deliberate care. The chamber fell silent as she pulled out a document bearing the unmistakable seal of the Department of Justice. "Before we begin today's questioning," she began, her voice calm yet commanding, "I want to notify this committee and Congressman Higgins that I have officially filed a criminal complaint with the FBI." She held the document aloft, letting the gravity of the moment sink in. The complaint presents evidence of wire fraud, witness intimidation, and obstruction of justice. The cameras zoomed in on her as she continued. This evidence clearly demonstrates that Congressman Higgins leveraged his office to intimidate federal witnesses and redirect over $750,000 in campaign funds for personal use for a fleeting moment. A flash of alarm crossed Higgins's face before he composed himself, but the cameras had already captured it. Broadcasting his unease to the entire chamber, Crockett tapped the folder decisively. "Included are bank statements, text messages, and sworn accounts from 3 former staff members, all of whom report being threatened when they raised concerns about financial misconduct." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the gallery. Committee members exchanged shocked glances while Higgins's face drained of color. This was not a typical partisan clash. The implications were serious and potentially criminal. "Congressman Higgins," Crockett said firmly, locking eyes with him, "would you like to respond to these allegations before we proceed?" This was no ordinary hearing. Cameras rolled as a congressman confronted the terrifying possibility of real criminal exposure in front of the nation before diving further into the explosive confrontation. Crockett's career and approach became clear. At 42, she had built a reputation on legal precision and accountability. With years of experience as a civil rights attorney in Texas and a law degree in hand, she entered Congress with a prosecutor's mindset: follow the facts, establish the truth, and demand accountability. Known for painstaking preparation, Crockett had earned respect as one of the few legislators who reviewed every document prior to hearings. "She doesn't perform for the cameras," a staffer once noted. "She spends weeks on materials most members overlook. When she makes an accusation, it's because she has verified it multiple times." Across the aisle, 62-year-old Congressman Clay Higgins had followed a very different path. A former Louisiana police officer, he rose to public attention through viral videos delivering fiery crime warnings. His larger-than-life persona, part sheriff, part preacher, all bravado helped propel him to Congress, where he became known for aggressive questioning and unwavering party loyalty. His campaign slogan, "I enforce the law, I don't break it," underscored the public image he had cultivated for years. The stakes could not have been higher. This confrontation wasn't simply about alleged misdeeds by one politician. It questioned whether those in power could be held accountable under the law. Polls suggested that more than 70% of Americans believed members of Congress regularly broke laws without consequence, amplifying public distrust in the system. The hearing had been expected to follow a familiar Washington script: partisan sparring, heated rhetoric, and few substantive outcomes. Yet no one anticipated what Crockett had quietly prepared. Acting on a tip from a former staffer 3 months earlier, she had conducted a careful review of Higgins's campaign finances, culminating in this high-stakes moment. "The committee will come to order," the chairman had announced at the start. Today, we continue our investigation into alleged campaign fund misuse and potential election law violations. Higgins entered the chamber confident, greeting colleagues and exchanging casual banter before settling into his seat. Observers, reporters, and staff anticipated the usual political theater, but they had no idea they were about to witness one of the most dramatic congressional showdowns in recent memory. Crockett's demeanor that day was different. A quiet intensity, a sense that she was operating outside the normal playbook, calm and measured. She began, "I'd like to address a matter of grave concern before we move forward with our scheduled agenda." What followed would dominate national headlines and potentially end a political career. As Crockett's allegations landed, chaos ensued. Higgins's attorney leaned in to whisper urgently, while Republican allies shuffled through papers, searching for procedural loopholes. Point of order. Mr. Chairman, Congressman Davis, a close Higgins ally, called out, "The gentlewoman's accusations are unrelated to this committee's work." Crockett was ready. "Mr. Chairman, these allegations pertain directly to campaign finance violations, the very subject of today's hearing. Federal law requires that potential crimes be reported." The chairman nodded gravely. Objection overruled. "The Congresswoman may proceed, though I remind members that this committee is not a court of law." Attempting to regain footing, Higgins leaned into his microphone. "Mr. Chairman, this is political theater. I followed all campaign finance rules. Concerns should go to the Ethics Committee, not this spectacle." His voice was firm but strained. Betraying a subtle tremor of unease, "I am happy to address the Ethics Committee," Crockett replied evenly. "But when evidence points to criminal conduct, federal law enforcement is the proper venue and I intend to present that evidence now." She opened another folder. These bank records show transfers from the Higgins for Congress account to Patriot Consulting, LLC, a company registered to Congressman Higgins's brother-in-law, just 3 days after he assumed office. The documents appeared on the chamber's large display screen. Between 2020 and 2023, more than $750,000 had flowed into the firm, allegedly for consulting. Yet records showed no employees, no office, and no additional clients. The gallery buzzed as reporters hurried to capture every word. The chairman struck the gavel for order. "These records," Crockett continued, "revealed that within 48 hours of each deposit, nearly identical sums were moved into the congressman's personal accounts, funding mortgages, a boat, and luxury travel, undisclosed on official filings." She laid out the timeline with precision, demonstrating that campaign funds were diverted for personal enrichment through a shell company. "This is not just an ethics violation," she concluded. "It is wire fraud and conversion of campaign funds federal crimes." Higgins's breathing grew shallow. He loosened his tie and took a small sip of water, clearly unsettled. "These claims are false," he said, voice wavering. "Patriot Consulting performed legitimate work for my campaign. Family involvement is common in politics." Crockett's expression remained steady. "Hiring relatives is not the issue, Congressman. The problem is that this company was a front to funnel campaign funds for personal use." She drew out another document. "This is a sworn statement from Jason Meadows, your former campaign finance director. He states that when he questioned these transfers, you said, and I quote, 'You need to remember who you're dealing with. I've put people away for life. Cross me and you'll regret it.'" The room erupted again. Higgins's background in law enforcement, once a source of strength, was now presented as a tool for intimidation. Outrageous. Higgins shouted. Jason Meadows was dismissed for incompetence. "He's fabricating these claims." Crockett remained composed. "Which is why the FBI complaint also includes this text message from your phone to Mr. Meadows." The screen illuminated with a message. "If you talk about campaign finances to anyone, I'll make sure you never work in politics or law enforcement again. I know where you live, Jason. Don't test me. Higgins's face flushed crimson. His breathing grew shallow and uneven. The once confident congressman appeared cornered. This message is taken out of context, he stammered. This is a coordinated political smear. Even Republican committee members shifted uneasily in their seats. The situation had transcended partisan debate, entering territory few wanted to defend. Crockett pressed on, steady as ever. When federal investigators began reviewing your campaign finances last month, phone records indicate you made 17 calls to potential witnesses within 48 hours. 3 of these individuals reported being pressured to remain silent or provide false statements. Higgins tugged at his tie, sweat beading on his forehead despite the room's cool air. His lawyer whispered urgently, but Higgins brushed him off. "These are lies," he muttered, voice trembling. "I've served this nation, first in uniform, then in Congress. I don't deserve this treatment." For nearly 15 minutes, Congresswoman Crockett methodically presented evidence suggesting Clay Higgins had committed serious federal offenses, while the tension in the chamber reached a fever pitch. The once formidable congressman faltering under the weight of undeniable facts. What began as firm denials had devolved into scattershot defensive replies. "Let me address in final point," Crockett said, her voice calm but unyielding. She motioned to tow a staff member who projected an audio clip onto the main screen. This recording was submitted to federal investigators. Higgins' eyes widened. His adder neck quickly rose. "Mr. Chairman, we've had a chance to review this so-called evidence. This is highly irregular and prejudicial." The chairman turned to Crockett. "Congresswoman, is this part of an active federal investigation?" "It is, Mr. Chairman," she confirmed. "But the FBI HAs cleared it for release. It does not compromise their ongoing case. The committee and the American people deserve to hear the congressman's own words." After consulting briefly with legal counsel, the chairman nodded. "You may proceed, but I remind all members this committee is not a court of law." The chamber fell silent. Crockett presayed play. Higgins' voice echoed through the room. "Listen, we need to get our story straight. If anyone asks about Patriot Consulting, say they provided legitimate strategic services. No one needs to know. Money came back to me. I've already spoken to the others, and they know what happens to people who cross me. I didn't spend 12 years in law enforcement with learning how to make problems disappear." As the recording ended, Crockett allowed the silence to settle. "Congressman Higgins," she said, her tone measured, "that was your voice on a call with your former treasurer 3 weeks ago after you learned of the federal investigation. Would you care to explain how this aligns with your statement that all allegations against you are false?" The room fell utterly silent. Higgins stared ahead, his face drained of color. His breathing grew fast and shallow, noticeable to everyone present and to millions watching live. When he finally spoke, his voice was faint. "I that recording, it doesn't." He stopped. Unablato form a clear sentence. His hand shook as he reached for his water glass, but instead knocked it over, spilling water across his notes. Higgins tugged at his collar, his breaths coming in short, panicked gasps. I can't." His words faded. What followed would replay across news networks for days. Higgins tried toasting but slumped back into his chair, his complexion pale and his eyes wide with distress. "Something's wrong," he managed to say in a tight, strained voice. "I can't breathe properly." The committee's doctor rushed Shedford as Higgins' panic grew evident. "My chest," he gasped, clutching his hurt. "My heart, it's racing." "I can't." The chairman quickly called for order. "This hearing is temporarily recessed. Please clear the room and give the congressman space." But the cameras kept trolling as the medical team surrounded Higgins. His panic attack now on full display for the nation. The man once known for his strength and authority sat slumped in his chair. An oxygen mask pressed to his face, eyes filled with fear. Crockett stood a few steps back, her expression calm yet serious, no triumphant. This moment wasn't about personal victory. It was about accountability, about reaching someone who had long believed himself beyond reproach, as Higgins was escorted out by medical staff. Reporters scrambled to file breaking alerts. Congressman Higgins suffers apparent panic. Attack after criminal allegations revealed. The committee recessed for 30 minutes. But the damage had already been done. The image of Higgins breaking down under the pressure of the evidence had been broadcast nationwide. The congressman who built his reputation on toughness and intimidation had just suffered a public collapse. When faced with his own actions, when the hearing resumed, Higgins's seat remained empty. His attorney announced he had been taken to Walter Reed Medical Center for evaluation and would not return that day. The chairman turned to Crockett. "Congresswoman, in light of these developments, do you have a final statement for the committee?" Crockett nodded. "Mr. Chairman, what we witnessed Saturday was unfortunate, but perhaps inevitable when someone faced consequences after believing they were immune. This isn't about politics. It's about the law and the oath we all swore. No one is above accountability. Not former law enforcement, not members of Congress, not anyone." In just 45 seconds of initial questioning, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett had achieved what USAF oversight had failed to do. Pierce said the armor of a powerful lawmaker. Whilst the rules didn't apply to him, the hearing moved on with its remaining business. But everyone in that room knew the pivotal moment had already taken place, with precise evidence and indelible recordings. Jasmine Crockett had shifted the course of congressional quotient. The repercussions of Higgins's public breakdown spread rapidly across Washington and the nation. What began as a routine university hearing had transformed into a defining moment for government transparency, all sparked by Crockett's meticulous presentation of damning evidence. By the afternoon's end, the broader implications were clear. This wasn't just about one congressman's possible crimes. It was about redefining control for those in power in an era of live broadcasts and social media scrutiny. Within hours, Higgins' office released a short statement. Congressman Higgins experienced a medical episode during today's hearing and is under evaluation at Walter Reed Medical Center. He denies all allegations and looks forward to clearing his name. But the statement rang hollow against the evidence. Crockett had revealed and the congressman's visible reaction when confronted with it. Clips of Higgins' panic attacks spread rapidly online, gaining millions of views. One viral comment captured the mood. "We just watched a congressman literally collapse under the weight of his own lies." News networks interrupted regular programming with banners reading, "Congressman suffers panic attack after criminal allegations." Revealed political commentators who had long dismissed congressional hearings as movie theater now debated a moment when real activity had finally broken through. By evening, official responses began to take form. The House Ethics Committee called an emergency meeting to discuss the allegations. The FICI confirmed that an active investigation mean Congressman Higgins was underway. Meanwhile, House Republican leaderships issued a carefully phrased statement that notably avoided defending Higgins, saying, "We take all allegations of misconduct seriously and trust the proper authorities to determine the facts." Throughout the evening, legal analysts appeared across major networks, breaking down the potential seriousness of the evidence Congresswoman Crockett had revealed. "What we saw today wasn't just political fallout," explained former federal prosecutor James Martinez on CNN. "The materials Congresswoman Crockett presented point to several federal crimes: wire fraud, witness tampering, and obstruction of justice. Each charge carries possible prison time, and the supporting evidence appears strong." As Washington processed shock, attention shifted to the woman behind the pivotal moment, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Outside his committee room, reporters surrounded her as she exited. "Congresswoman, did you expect Higgins to react the way headed?" one asked. Crockett's reply was calm yet firm. Today wasn't about creating headlines or humiliating anyone. It was about following the evidence and ensuring that no one, no matter their position, is above the law. Congressman Higgins' reaction is between him and his medical team. My concern is for the crime syndicated and for the witnesses who came forward despite the risks. As the evening news shows analyzed the hearing, political commentators highlighted how Crockett's conduct differed from usual congressional showdowns. What we often see are lawmakers seeking attention or viral clips. Observatical analyst David Axelrod. Crockett took a completely different route. She built a structured factual case, step by step, almost like a prosecutor in court. She didn't shout or make it personal. She simply laid out the evidence so clearly that Higgins Gould sustained his denials. By the next morning, the political aspersions had grown. 3 Majordaners announced they wanted refunds off their contributions to Higgins' campaign. 6 House Republicans who had previously supported him released statements expressing concern and stressing the need to wait for more facts. The Washington Post published an analysis titled "The Crockett Method: How One Congresswoman Redefined Accountability," explaining how her background as an attorney guided a strategy rooted in evidence and precision, not theatrics. For Higgins, the consequences deepened. His office stated he would be taking a leave without providing details. Legal experts predicted possible federal charges within weeks based on the material Crockett had already released. When a sitting member of Congress is recorded telling others to lie to investigators, that's about as straightforward a case of obstruction as you'll find, said former federal Judge Michael Sullivan on Morning Joe. Meanwhile, Crockett's approach began influencing others. In Congress, staff from several offices reached out to her team for advice on building strong evidence-based investigations. Newer members from both parties were reportedly rethinking their combativist. After witnessing how effective Crockett's measured strategy had been, what we saw wasn't just sharp questioning. It was a masterclass in congressional oversight, remarked Representative Adam Schiff. Congresswoman Crockett reminded everyone what true accountability looks like. Political analysts soon began discussing wider significance of what they called the Crockett effect. After years of hearings filled with dramatic exchanges, but few real outcomes, Crockett proved that careful preparation and factual precision could still cut through the layers of power and privilege. We've grown used to powerful figures evading scrutiny and facing real consequences, noted historian Doris Carnes Goodwin. What Congresswoman Crockett achieved was a return to the core mission of congressional oversight, not as political theater, but as a legitimate check on authority. The ripple effects reached beyond Washington, shaping public opinion on integrity and responsibility. In Thuic, following the hearing, polls showed that 68% of Americans, including majorities of both Democrats and Republicans, many Americans approved OFO Congresswoman Crockett handled her confrontation with Congressman Higgins. "People are craving substance over spectacle," explained polling analyst Nate Silver. "No matter their party, Americans want to see genuine oversight rather than partisan theatrics." For many observers, the real significance of the Crockett-Higgins exchange lay in what it revealed about Washington's shifting balance of power. The old model of bluster, denial, and intimidation had finally met its match in careful preparation and undeniably vodens. As New York Times columnist David Brooks wrote, "What we witnessed said was the triumph of facts over force." For years, politicians like Higgins had operated under the belief that loud rhetoric and intimidation could overpower the truth. Congresswoman Crockett reminded the nation that evidence, thoroughly gathered and clearly presented, still holds the power to deliver accountability, even to those who once seemed untouchable. 2 weeks after the hearing, as federal investigators continued building their case against Higgins, Crockett spoke at a forum at Georgetown Law School. Audience filled with students and public servants gathered to hear from the congresswoman who had reshaped the national conversation around government accountability. When asked about the broader meaning of her exchange with Higgins, Crockett's response captured the moment's lasting mess. In a healthy democracy, power must answer to truth, not the other way around. When we let powerful people construct their own version of reality through intimidation and bravado, we weaken the very foundation of our democracy. What happened in that hair was about politics or personalities. It was about whether we still believe in equal justice under the law. And based in the response from Americans across spectrum, I believe we do. As for Congressman Higgins, his future become uncertain. Medical reports confirmed he had suffered a panic attack during the hearing. His once promising political career appeared to be in jeopardy as investigators continued reviewing the evidence Crockett had brought forward. 3 weeks later, Higgins announced he would not seek re-election, citing health issues and a desire to focus on clearing my name. Politicalists quickly noted that his announcement came on the same day federal prosecutors were seen in Naring's grand jury room, an indication that criminal charges could soon follow. The message was clear. In Washington's web of power, ego, and ambition, accountability may seem elusive, but it takes one well-prepared, determined individual to demand it. And in this case, it took just 45 seconds of pointed questioning from Jasmine Crockett to make it happen. If you found this breakdown of the Crockett-Higgins confrontation, be sure to like this video. Made you a subscribe for more in-depth coverage of major political events. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And share this video with anyone who values genuine accountability and action. Your support helps us continue providing the kind of thoughtful political analysis you won't find anywhere else.